Amitabha. Shifu will continue talking with you about the current situation of China exporting evil. Actually, why is Shifu talking to you about these things? Because you are Chinese. You understand this. Shifu will first ask you this. Right now, Yen Yuan, whose land are your parents contracting?
It seems to be the land of their country.
Not the country, local land belonging to a certain village, to a certain local government, right? Now there is no village anymore, so the community contracting is done under a certain community of a certain township. Is that how it is?
Yes.
So when you contract this land, who does the ownership of this land belong to?
Ownership? The ownership belongs to their government.
To the state, right?
Oh, yes.
Which means it is in the hands of the Communist Party. Isn't that so?
Yes, Shifu.
You see, yesterday, Shifu talked to you about robbing the poor to feed the rich. So when the Communist Party robbed the poor, no, not robbing the poor to feed the rich, but robbing the rich to aid the poor. Then after the Communist Party robbed the rich, did it actually aid the poor? After robbing the rich, it kept everything in its own hands. The ordinary people were left with nothing at all. This is what is called the proletariat, owning nothing. So how were the people supposed to live? Like during the famine in 1960, people survived by eating grass and tree bark just to cling to a bit of life. In reality, huge numbers of people died. Many starved to death. So what is the root of all this? It is that after the Communist Party robbed the rich, it did not aid the poor. It did not give the things it seized back to the ordinary people. The people didn't even have a single plot of land. Before that, ordinary people still had at least a few small plots of land, right? Whether poor or rich, people at least had some land of their own, land they could farm and eat from, right? But now, if they say you can't plant, that's it, you can't plant. So the root cause of the hunger in 1960 was this. They seized the land, seized all the property, and handed it all over to the Communist Party. If it did not allow you to plant, then you simply could not plant. That is why in 1958, large amounts of produce were left in the fields, rotting right there in the fields. This led to shortages of grain and vegetables, and all kinds of problems followed, eventually triggering the hunger of 1960. This is the reality. So, how did this situation come about in the first place? Up to now, even to this very day, all the wealth and property that the Communist Party seized and all the ordinary people it killed and dispossessed were never handled according to their so-called next step. That is, to relieve poverty, to help the poor. Instead, they just said, oh, everything we seized, everyone gets a share. They called you members of the People's Commune, didn't they? You've heard of that, haven't you? Ask your parents whether they ever worked as members of the People's Commune. Those so-called members actually own nothing at all. They were just there working for the Communist Party, carrying labor for the Communist Party. In the past, they carried labor for landlords, and the landlords at least gave them food to eat. Now, they carry labor for the Communist Party. And if the Communist Party says it won't give you anything, then you get nothing. Do you know that? If you could get even 1 yuan for an entire year, that was already considered good. But if you carried labor for a landlord, they could give you 1 yuan a month. Do you know that? The difference is enormous. After seizing everything through deception, through brainwashing, you are turned into a kind of human zombie. Everything is decided by the Communist Party. So in that case, in a country like this, whether it is an individual person or a company, once they go abroad, they are in fact all part of the Communist Party. Even if you are a so-called private business owner, you still cannot escape the fact that your private business belongs to the Communist Party. Do you understand? You see, Yanyuan, why did I ask you who that land belongs to? Isn't that land owned by the Communist Party?
Yes.
You are someone who leases land from the Communist Party in order to do business. If you then go abroad to develop, let me ask you, isn't that still the Communist Party?
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
And beyond that, once your thinking has been brainwashed, that kind of thinking spreads like a virus. The Communist Party keeps replicating this kind of evil. Then these people go to the Western world and spread these criminal ideas every single day. Do you think this is not exporting evil?
Yes.
So whether it was the United States or the European Union, when they accepted the Communist Party into the WTO, that was essentially allowing a virus to enter the system. Once the entire Communist Party system goes abroad, it sweeps through everything, destroying it completely. What does sweeping destruction mean? It means breaking normal order and causing large numbers of European and American companies to collapse. They export this evil in the name of the state or through other means, destroying the very foundations of survival, the foundations that other countries depend on to live. That is invasion, isn't it? When a virus enters our body, isn't it invading us and causing illness, making us sick? Right? The problems appearing in Europe and America today are actually all caused by the Communist Party. It is what led to the formation of these crimes and evils we see now. Look at that Fuyao Glass Company in the United States. That guy, he makes money operating in the US, then goes back to China to invest and run things there. I'm telling you, he's with the Communist Party, right?
Yes.
So, the countries of Europe and America cannot see this clearly, and by the time they do see it clearly, they are almost as good as dead. Take these enterprises today, whether they operate under the name of private business or under the name of the Communist Party. In reality, they all belong to the Communist Party. When you go abroad, all your actions end up changing this world, causing it to regress from a civilization of freedom, democracy, and human rights back into this kind of evil communist way of life, right?
Yes.
Therefore, even in China, so-called genuine private business owners are not truly private enterprises at all. You have to understand, private businesses. Jura, let me ask you, if someone has no connections, can they succeed?
No, Sherfu. They can't. They all rely on connections, on giving gifts.
Ah, and what are those connections? Officials. So what this means is, a so-called private enterprise like this, even though it looks like it's run by an individual, is in fact controlled by the Communist Party. Isn't that so? So isn't it still the Communist Parties? We're just nobodies, right? You want a loan as a private enterprise, you Juro have worked in a bank. Can a private business actually get a loan? You can't. If they give you money, there are conditions. They are controlling you. So when these people go abroad, even if someone is a so-called private business owner in China, it is still a Communist Party enterprise because its backing, all its lifelines, are held by the Communist Party. Do you understand? Therefore, in China, there is fundamentally no such thing as private enterprise. All resources belong to the Communist Party. If it tells you how to live, you live according to what it says. Then isn't it still theirs? Do you understand?
Yes.
Yen Yuan, do you understand?
I understand, Sherfu.
So when you say now, oh, what are you doing domestically? In fact, all of it is under its control. Its control, meaning that even when you go abroad, it is still controlling you. When you go overseas and need a loan, loans there are issued according to that country's own banking rules and national conditions. Do you understand? Abroad, there is no such thing as private enterprises or individual enterprises. If it is a business, and it belongs to an individual. The only distinction is the nature of the company, whether it is limited or unlimited, and whether it is shareholding or operated independently. There is that distinction. In China, even if you run an individual business or company, you are still controlled by some connection. That is, by some official, So it is still the Communist parties. Do you understand?
Yes, we understand.
Therefore, whether in Europe or in the United States, they must awaken now and completely cut off all non-substantively independent operations involving people and goods coming from China. They must cut them off entirely. As long as they are Chinese nationals who do not intend to settle in Europe or the United States, who do not live independently in Europe or the US, then they should be kept outside the door and refused entry. As long as Chinese enterprises come to Europe or the US to invest, they should be kicked out immediately. Only then can you ensure that Western interests are not seized by the Communist Party, not invaded by the Communist Party. That is why people call this decoupling. Of course, you must decouple. If you don't, they will keep you hooked. The overall decline of Europe and the West has been caused entirely by the Communist Party alone. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now, people in Europe and the West say, oh, let's go to China to make money. Whether it's Mercedes or Volvo, these companies were already thriving before they made money in China. They were industry leaders. But after expanding into the Chinese market, even though they make money there, why do they become poorer and poorer? It is because they do not realize that although it looks like you are making money, in reality, your lifeblood is being drained dry by the Communist Party, because it is a state and you are an individual. Do you understand?
Understood.
This is terrifying. So back then, those two flea spirits, those two beasts, saying, this is our new 100 years, saying they were going to do this and that. They had already seen it clearly. They had seen through you people in Europe and the West. You are foolish enough that they could eat you however they wanted. Isn't that so? Now, this issue actually happens to be an opportunity, a critical moment, because the war in Ukraine has awakened Europe and the West. Hey, these people don't keep their word, do they? Didn't Russia say it would stop fighting Ukraine? Then why did it start again? Right? Russia promised it would not invade Ukraine after seizing Crimea. 4 years later, it started grabbing the eastern regions. This just never ends. What they say is basically like farting. It doesn't count, you know? Does the Communist Party keep its word? Not a single thing they say counts. If their words actually counted, no one would ever have suffered this kind of loss. Back then, whether it was landlords, rich peasants, or capitalists, they said we'll have joint public-private ownership, and so on. You just keep doing what you're doing. You're all the pillars of our nation. Then once things changed, they arrested you and simply shot you. Their words never count. They rely entirely on deception to amass power and accumulate wealth. The Kuomintang was fooled precisely because of this. The Communist Party relies on deception and trickery. After luring in senior Kuomintang generals, once you came over and they had extracted what they needed from you, they arrested you, executed you, persecuted you. That's how they operate. Why do people end up suffering losses? Because people always have a tendency toward goodwill. They think, what he says sounds reasonable. He seems sincere. So they choose to cooperate. They never expect that once the cooperation is over, they've fallen straight into a trap. Do you understand?
I understand.
So the difference between evil and good is this. Evil, as a condition, as an organization, as people who embody evil, carries inherent wrongdoing. You cannot engage with it on the basis of trusting or distrusting it. You must block it out entirely. That is fundamental. Look at an evil society, an axis of evil. Look at the axis of evil countries. China. China is the most evil core of that axis right now. Then Russia, Iran, North Korea. These axis of evil countries. The only way is not to engage with them at all. Only then can you block out evil. Once you engage with them, whether they treat you well or not, they are still violating you. Do you understand this?
I understand.
The world today must clearly see the true face of the Communist Party. There is no such thing as a private enterprise under it. You may say, I'm private. I'm an individual operator. Fine. But even if you are private, once your mind has been brainwashed, what is installed in you is this kind of virus. Deep down, what is embedded in you is evil. It is the Communist Party. Do you understand? Those little pinks, those 50-cent trolls, they actually get nothing from the party, right? Yet they still work for the Communist Party. Why? It's the same logic as this. Even if someone is an individual operator, a private owner, he is still what for the Communist Party? A lackey. So in the end, he is still what of the Communist Party? A state enterprise. He is not truly individual. He is simply what of the Communist Party? Its supporters, its claws and fangs. Do you understand?
I understand.
That is to say, under the current situation, when they go around the world doing business, you must not do business with them. Why does Shifu not have confidence in Trump? Because he keeps saying to the Communist Party, we'll raise tariffs again. Raise what tariffs? Just cut it off. There's no need for tariffs. Even if soybeans are dumped into the ocean, I still wouldn't sell to you. You see, once China buys soybeans, Trump wakes up again, and he starts feeling good about it. You cannot engage with this kind of evil. It is evil itself. If you engage with a virus, the virus enters your body, and in the end, it makes you sick and you die. As for the Communist Party's crimes, whether it treats you well or treats you badly, if it treats you well, you fall into a trap. If it treats you badly, you die outright. That's exactly how it is. Do you understand? In any case, inside or out, you cannot engage with them. That is the reality. Some people think Shifu's words sound biased. I tell you, not even a tiny bit. If you don't listen, then keep Shifu's teaching, save it, and look at it at the very end. If they do not cut off these ties with the Communist Party, just watch what the final outcome will be. They will be completely devoured by the Communist Party, eaten clean, bones crushed and sucked dry. Do you understand?
Understood, Shifu.
It is a virus. You will definitely cough, definitely have phlegm, definitely run a fever. Now the United States has started to run a fever. Oh, for the Communist Party, I'll give you 20%. I'll raise tariffs this way and that. What tariffs are you still talking about? Do not allow them to operate at all. Do not allow any imports. Take it slowly. This is called scraping the bone to heal the wound. Yes, cutting off the Communist Party's supply of goods. It may mean that the United States and Europe will face some shortages of goods. Take it slowly. Because of these shortages, a large number of domestic enterprises will gradually emerge. They will start producing, and step by step things will get better. But if you connect yourselves to the Communist Party, this evil axis, even if they give you food and keep you propped up, in the end, they are destroying you. Do you understand?
Understood, Shifu.
Just like a virus, once it gets onto your body, it keeps replicating, and then you're finished. All right, I won't talk anymore. Send this teaching to them as well. Let them all listen. All right, Amitabha.